right, recording has been started. Welcome everyone to the final roundtable of 2024. Huge thanks to Chicken Bot Pie. I was trying to figure out what in the world we're going to talk about this week, and then all of a sudden, just as if it was magic, the email came in that you guys had signed up to take tonight's session. So I really appreciate you guys stepping up and filling that spot for me. It's hugely appreciated. All right. So anyway, we won't be doing any more roundtables. There's 2 more Sundays in this year, but with the holidays and winter break for all schools and everything, we won't be doing any of those meetings. So we'll reconvene on the Sunday following kickoff. And I'm sure our topic is going to be everything kickoff. It's not on the list, but I'm confident that's what we're going to be talking about. So we'll plan to do a kickoff roundtable when we reconvene in 3 weeks. Other than that, the floor is yours. Take it away, Emilio and John. You introduce yourself, please. Tell us what we're going to learn about tonight, and go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Emilio. Today we're going to be kind of going over the Chicken Flannel open source project that Team 4082 has been making. We showcased a demo of it at the mini trials roundtable, actually at the Metronics roundtable, the one after Metronics, and we're just going to be going over what we've added and how you guys can use it, and also help add things to it and make it an open source project. Also, I would just like to say we have our programming captain, John, in here. Wants to say hi.
Yep, that's me. Is my microphone working? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm the programming captain, John, and I'm gonna just kind of leave it up to Emilio to talk about, since he's been kind of the lead guy working on all this stuff. So yeah, you guys are in for a pretty good presentation.
Okay. A little bit of spoilers there, but so what we're going to be kind of going over today is just like a showcase of the app, kind of going over all design philosophy when making it, explanation of the code, and how all future goals and how you can join in and help us achieve them and make it like really kind of community-led thing. So I guess without further ado, I'll just be showcasing the app real quick. So this is the Chicken Flannel app. It is currently written in Java and using Maven. I'm just going to run it real quick. And there it is. So when you open the app, the first thing you get is a little load menu, and then what you can do is you can load a WPL project. So in this case, we're going to be using the example project found in actually the code base. And as you can see, you already have 2 routines in here that I've made from an example. And the nice thing about this is it's really easy to plan routines. So it's kind of like a drawing app where you can just draw and make your designs and make your visual curves. And the nice thing is that it's a fully functioning saving system. For example, if I maybe want to name this like routine example 2, I can see that I can save it, and it is now in my WPL project. And furthermore, we also built a library called Chicken Flannel Lib, which actually allows for the reading of these paths and turning them into a WPL command. So in this case, let's use routine example 2, the one we just made. So this is a fairly standard WPL project. What we have here is just like what you usually find on like a code base, your drive chain, and your robot. So what you do in order to like actually read a command or like a path is you use this function from Chicken Flannel Lib called follow chicken path command. And what it allows you to do is you can pass in a trajectory config. So that's pretty much just how fast your robot can move and like what its max acceleration. Then you just pass in a method to get your robot's position, to reset odometry, and to actually like have the output for drive. Also, furthermore, you can do something really neat, which you can actually add commands in this to run during your stop points. For example, if I wanted like have a command for like my full stop point be like hello world, what we can see is that when we actually simulate this routine example 2, when we run this in autonomous, we can actually see that it's following the chicken flannel path, and it's stopping at the stop points and moving all the way around. So what this means is that using chicken flannel is relatively easy if you're using the library, as you can kind of just like set the path and then automatically save it. So for instance, if I wanted to maybe say I want this path to be moving more closer to the side, maybe like doing like an L motion, and I also want to have like another stop point there, that's really easy. I can just overwrite the save and then go back to WParallel and just resimulate the code again, and then everything will have been updated accordingly, and then you can actually see that it will follow the path. So let me just simulate it again and press autonomous. You can see that it's just following it nice and easily, and it's stopping at all the stop points. And yeah, in this case, this is using Tink, as I was just using the default WParallel Tink sim. But you can also have this do Swerve. You just have to switch out the Ramset controller for a Swerve controller instead. So that's really like the bulk of chicken flannel and the use cases. So currently, what a usual like workflow would look like is you would load a WParallel project, and then maybe you would like just click on the routine you want to auto, and it's telling you to save. And then you would just like make modifications and also like set up your action point for like doing commands during the autonomous period. And then you would just save. And then you would go into WParallel and have your follow chicken path command along with everything you want to run. And as you can see, it prints out hello world when you actually get to the stop point. So really to define the design philosophy we had when working on this was kind of just like basing the app all around Bezier curves. So just as a quick recap, a Bezier curve is just linearly interpolating between a set of control points. So this is a good example. So what you can kind of see is that you just have a bunch of control points, and then you kind of just interpolating between them to get a path. And how you make a Bezier spline, which is the concept the app is around, is you just take a bunch of these Bezier curves and you add them together. And we can actually see that those control points are visible when designing path. So each one of these is a cubic Bezier curve with the control points just here. For example, this would be control point 0, control point 1, control point 2, and control point 3. And the reason this is really nice is it not only gives you a lot of control, but you can also make really complicated paths. And this is the same way vector drawing tools, like for example, like the vector drawing tool in Photoshop works. So it's really intuitive to that. Kind of like what we were seeking for when making the app was to make it feel like you're making a drawing program, but for robots. So as you can see, that's like really was the design philosophy, just basing everything around this concept of just kind of like you're drawing a Bezier spline, your robot's following this curve, and you can specify certain things to happen on that spline. Now, how it works is that this is written in a library called JavaFX. Now, the reason that we chose, sure, Aiden.
I was kind of curious. So the robot follows this path, but how exactly do we get the robot to do its things like picking up notes, for example, and shooting them and that kind of stuff alongside this path? Is that something on a later slide or?
Yeah, so if we actually go to this slide, this kind of like a bit of a good diagram. So how chicken flannel works is that from those action points, what it does is it kind of divides the curve into a bunch of separate trajectories. So just move up to that trajectory, then it will stop, and then you can perform another action. So if we actually go into Java, this is like an instant command. So what this is doing is just printing out hello world when we get to that full stop point. So in this case, what it's going to do is it's just going to print out hello world when we reach 0, and then it will continue moving on. Furthermore, what you can also do is you can also specify it to not stop at a certain action point, but just to follow the curve and perform the action at the same time. So what you would want to do is, ideally for like last year's game, you probably want to have the curve stop when you get to a note, pick up the intake, and then continue moving along the curve. So I'll go into a little bit more detail how chicken panel library works later, but that's like the basic idea. For JavaFX, the reason we chose JavaFX X is one, it's in Java, which is really nice because that means people on our team and also other FRC teams can more easily work on it. We all use Java for programming the robot, so that makes it a lot easier for like new people to get on. Also, because it's Java, you can actually use WPL classes in the app to get it to produce results more like WPL, which is just kind of just a neat little thing to make the app a more cohesive experience when using it with WPL. Really, how the chicken panel app is organized is kind of just like organized into like 5 different folders. So you have app state, which is kind of just like managing passing along information across the app. For example, like which point is selected, which file is loaded. Auto planning handles like the rendering logic and curve manipulation. So when in there, we have like a program to draw Bezier splines to a JavaFX canvas, which is what you actually see when you're working with the app. We also have the logic to manipulate the curve and move around. File management manages the files, and math utils holds like math utility classes such as Bezier spline and Vector2, and UI elements has the UI elements in it. So back in the WPL, so how you can like kind of imagine what chicken panel is doing here is it's actually producing like a unique trajectory for each one of these points. So this would be like trajectory 1, like trajectory 2, and like trajectory 3. So it's like producing a WPL trajectory between each one of these individual segments. And how it does that is, here's like some example Bezier curve code. This is not the actual code used in the robot. In the app, it's a little bit more complicated, but this is kind of like a simplified version. So usually with Cupid Bezier curves, you want to have like 4 different control points in the class. And how you find like a point on the curve is you just linearly interpolate between all the control points. If we go back to this slide, you can kind of see that happening in action, with each one of these control points just interpolating between the last. So yeah, that's chicken panel lib. If you want like a more in-depth explanation of how like the code works, I can do that during the question sections. But also chicken panel and its counterpart of chicken panel lib ended up being over 5,000 lines long. So if you want to like have like a more in-depth process of how it works, or like before the development process, Team 42 will be hosting like chicken panel dev calls on Saturday nights. Is that, and actually going into that, here are like our future goals for the app. So really what we want to have this be is an open source project. We would love to have like help from others, and we would also love to have any suggestions. You can also see Uncle Sam over here also wants you to join the dev team. And this is the Discord link. I'll post that in the chat later, but those are kind of like the main goals. Another thing we want to do with the chicken panel project is kind of getting a code review with people on it from other teams. When you look on like a code base for a while, it's easy to kind of just like see like real practices as becoming normal. So it would be nice if we have other people who haven't interacted with the project as much, kind of like giving us their opinions and what they'll think is nice. We also want to add like a tool point UI for setting exact positions. So currently right now, you can like set an exact position, you can just drag it. And it might be nice to be able to actually measure and set that exact position. We also wanted for action points to be able to specify rotation in them, which actually in the code you can specify rotation. We just never got to adding that to the UI. And that's something we'd also like help with. And also rigorous bug testing. There was definitely a bug in this app, and we do need to find them, so that would be like another help. Another thing we're trying to work on with Chicken Panel is kind of like this idea of an auto planning system. So something nice about JavaFX is that all elements are draggable. And also another thing that's nice about Java is you can actually parse uncompiled files. So the idea we had was having an annotation above like commands, maybe called like chicken plannable, which would allow the app to actually visualize your commands inside, and you can just kind of drag them around. If anyone's ever used Unity State Machine system before, that's what we're kind of going for. We actually did end up building a prototype for this in the app, but then an issue with a Git merge kind of got that deleted, unfortunately. But it was basically a rudimentary system where you can just kind of drag boxes around. But that's like we were kind of going for, of you just dragging arrows across the commands that would be able to pop up in the chicken panel system. So I kind of went through quick for that, but does anyone have like anything they want to see more particular and how like the app works?
Emilio, can you go back to the instant command that you created? Does that run at the end of the path? Is that what that's for?
Yeah, so actually the nice thing about that is, let's just go to because we're using routine example 2, I'll just use this one. So if we go into that and actually open up WPLabs, run over here, what we can kind of see is that with this instant command, it actually runs at that point. So maybe we can have like this false one be like 0.1. And then you can have like another command specified for the next action point, like 0.2.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that's how you can actually like specify action points to happen. So if we actually run this and we just and we check the output, we can actually see that when we get to that false action point, 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So that's how the action point systems works. And this is like just a nice helpful library that we made that allows you to do this. All you have to do is just type in what you name the routine, and then just pass in like your robot's mass acceleration and your robot's max velocity plus its position and like a method to reset odometry. And then Chicken Plan Lib will actually handle everything else for you and do the scheduling, the trajectory following, and of course having these action points to do commands.
So it looks like it does these instant commands like one per point. If I wanted to have multiple happen at the same time, would I have to create like a new command that had 2 commands inside of it? Or
yeah, that's how you would probably go about it. What you would want to do is you would want to use like a parallel, if I can spell, parallel command group, and then you would just have to like command specified in here. For example, if I wanted it to like print maybe 2 things, have maybe like hello, and then that's how you would like have multiple actions happening at one point.
You could put any command in there you wanted. Instant command is just easy because then Emilio can get, some debug output. But you could make a custom command that would run your intake and your indexer at the same time. You could do exactly what Emilio has done here with a parallel group or even a parallel deadline group, and run multiple things at the same time. You could use a sequential command, and run one thing and then run the next thing, which would allow you to do with a wait as well if you want there to be a delay. Ton of flexibility.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we were like going for, is we just wanted it to be like ease of use and also kind of like be like analogous to WPLab. So again, you can just like put your commands in here, and also this returns a command, which actually, if we go into follow chicken command, a bit of a messy file, but what this really does is it kind of just gets you a ramset command and just returns a command group of just a bunch of like kind of trajectory following, followed by your action point command, followed by another trajectory. So that's kind of like the logic behind Chicken Channel Lib. What we ended up doing is we ended up putting all the classes needed for this into one single file, which is a bit of a long file, but the benefit of this is that if you want, you can just copy paste this into your own project and be easily able to start using WP iLib and Chicken Channel. Anybody have any more questions or like want to see any more demonstrations?
Emilio, we ran into, so my mini trials groups, we had 2 robots for mini trials, and one used ramset command and the other one attempted to use ramset command and ended up just doing timing on their driving. And the reason why the one group gave up on ramset command is that ramset command can't go backwards, can't do a negative path. At least that's been our experience. Have you found, so the front of your robot has to be the direction your robot drives when the match starts, when you're using ramset. Have you found a way around that, or is it just truly be careful what side of the robot is the front if you're doing tank drive and therefore you're using a ramset command?
So that's like one disadvantage of tank, is that you can't do that. The reason I'm doing a ramset demonstration is because Coincidentally, Ramset is the only WPRAL project that has a built-in sim. So this is like an example WPRAL project. It's the Ramset controller example, who I just added on ChickenPlannerlib. If you actually end up having a Ramset command do like a backwards motion, it will end up just kind of like going like this and doing like kind of like a polking motion until it gets facing backwards, which isn't ideal. So it's not really a way around that because just that's how Ramsets work. The only way you can possibly do a negative path is just by having it rotate backwards and then still doing it, which isn't really Ramset. In actual practice, you'd probably be using ChickenPlannerlib with Swarf. I just chose to use Ramset for this as it was like a default WPRAL project.
Got it. Yeah, the visualizer makes this so much easier. That completely makes sense now. It hadn't occurred to me that there isn't a simulator for Swerve. That totally makes sense why your demos are all Ramset.
Yeah, I scrolled through every single WPRAL project, and I'm really surprised that they don't have an example Swarf sim. They only have an example Tank sim.
I have a question then relating to Swerve. I know that you won't be able to show the simulation of it, but the last time we talked about this, were you able to put in the orientation of the robot at the start and beginning of the path, or maybe at each of your action points when you're doing your drawing of the curve?
Yeah, so what you can do is, this wasn't added to the UI elements yet, but this was added to the code. So pretty much you can just like set a rotation radians here. And what that would do is, the nice thing about Swarf trajectories is that you don't have to be careful with the rotation. Currently, how we set it up so that Ramset will follow it is that at each one of these points on a curve, it would just get the derivative of that, and then it would just get the magnitude of said derivative, which in fancy terms just means just face forward on the line. But with Swarf, you can actually have much more freedom of rotation. So what we ended up doing is that, let's say this is like facing like upwards and this is like facing downwards, it would just pretty much just kind of set the rotation values to be like a kind of just like interpolating between those two on this line. So this would just be like slowly toning down all the way up to there. And how it would do this is it wouldn't actually like, it would look at action points. So you can just like set an action point down here and like down there. And then if you like set different rotation values, it would just like kind of loop between them. We have to add that to the UI. I didn't get to adding that to the UI as I was focused on getting ChickenPlannerlib done. But that's one of the things we would like help with, as just kind of keeping the UI elements clean and also adding more features like that.
Prior to using or creating your chicken planner, what were you guys using prior to that? Or was there a source that you were using prior to?
We were using Choreo, and Choreo worked well. One thing we didn't like about Choreo is that you kind of don't have much control over your trajectory. You set like specified robot positions, and then you have like to press the compile button, which took a lot of time. And that competition of you just like need to like move something ever so slightly, it got a little bit tedious with Choreo to have to like drag it down and then like recompile it and then see if the trajectory did what you want. So that's kind of what motivated this idea of just using Bezier curves, as it's really just kind of like drawing your path, and that's why we wanted to use it this way. Any questions on like the code base in particular, like anything you guys were curious on how it works?
One of the things that you might want to consider doing in your GitHub is making an example project that's more similar to a real robot, like it would have an intake and a shooter, so that you could show how you would set up your sequential command and run your intake during this path, and then stop the intake, and then run your shooter once you get to that path and run it for a certain amount of time, or until a sensor detects that the ball has left whatever your sensor is that's in your shooter. I think the challenge that a lot of teams have is that they may have never manually coded an auto to string together all of your commands and things like that, especially with Path Planner. a lot of teams out there are dragging and dropping to build their autos. And so a lot of this is going to be new to them. My team decided, our captain and our autonomous lead decided last year that they wanted to go back to coding autos after having a year of drag and drop to build their autos with Path Planner. And so they've spent their summer and their fall relearning how to code autos. But a piece of advice for you is to maybe show sort of a sample project that has other subsystems and commands in it, to sort of show how you would string together different commands in a parallel group or a parallel deadline group or sequential commands or something like that, because I think that's a new skill set. I think that's a skill set that teams have lost, and now to use the power of what you guys have built here, they're going to have to relearn that skill.
Yeah, that's something we were kind of like focusing on. We wanted it to be like easily plannable, but also like still have, as you said, like the power of like being able to use commands. Path Planner was nice. The only thing is like with its like named commands is that you can't specify parameters, and it does limit the complexity of it. So that's actually a really good idea of having like an example project. Probably could like do something with the mini trials bot, because usually the code bases on those are a bit simple.
Also, Emilio, do you want to talk about like your? I know you talked to me about your plans for like making a pretty simple like flowchart kind of auto planner. You had that on that slide there.
Oh yeah.
You want to kind of talk about that as well?
Yeah. So this was the idea. Something I experimented with last year was kind of like having a really ease of use using Java annotations. Java actually has like a lot of libraries to kind of like edit itself, which is a bit unique. It's like the reflection libraries. But the nice thing about that is you can actually specify things with annotations. So one thing we were messing around with is kind of like putting an annotation like above a command. So if I wanted to demonstrate it on, for instance, maybe like this follow trajectory command that was like a test. The idea of what we were having is you would be able to like add like chicken plannable above a command, and what it would end up doing is that using the Java Parser library, when you load it with chicken plannel, it would actually be able to go through your codebase and find all those things that you specified as plannable. And the nice thing about Java of X is that everything is draggable. So what we'd be able to do is just set up a bunch of boxes that you can kind of link together and have this like ability to set up commands, but you can also specify parameters in them. So if anyone's ever used like Unity State Machine System, which I can like pull the diagram up real quick, this is kind of like this idea of like Unity State Machine System, something similar to this, albeit a little bit simpler. But that's what we were kind of going for with auto planning, because with Path Planner, it's kind of like difficult to like see what your autos are doing. But we thought it would be nice if you can actually make your autos by kind of just like dragging boxes and like linking them together, a little bit like block code, but more kind of like a graph was our idea. And pretty much as soon as we do all kind of housekeeping tasks of just kind of getting the code base set up, because again, it's over 5,000 lines, there's albeit some bugs in there probably, so we want to like make sure we iron those out first before we start working on like another big system like this. But that's like kind of like the end goal of maybe like this year, just to have this auto planning system really done and working well.
Hey, non-programmer here. Question. So, what is the biggest difference between this app and Auto Planner?
Really the biggest difference is I haven't messed around with Path Planner too much, but it was kind of more of a focus on kind of more like a drawing feel. With Path Planner, I believe you can only specify one path at a time. I haven't used it terribly much, but it was kind of what we're kind of going for was kind of like a Photoshop feel of just being able to draw lines and draw curves. And also, what we kind of also wanted to go for is the difference with Path Planner is that out of event workers, it's a bit difficult to specify what you're trying to do. And the nice thing about this is that you can have like that commands for just specifying what's happening at each action point. We also wanted, again, just like really this system is what we're aiming to make Chicken Planner a more like useful project. But in its current state, Path Planner or Chicken Planner or similar, this one just kind of, I feel, gives you more control code-wise and maybe a little bit more control path-wise a little bit. Chicken Planner also has its own merits. I think it would be like up to like what you're looking for, of like which one you would want to choose. But if you choose Chicken Planner, I would be very happy.
I do like the name Chicken Planner though. But the other, my other question is, how much of this have you debugged? Are you seeing, what is your rollout plan for something like this? Are you going to? Is it like like a testing phase where you're gonna be like, oh, maybe next, when the big next mayhem starts, you want to bring this out, or is it something that's still like it's still in an infancy or initial planning stage where you're like cautionary tale, don't use it until you know, and if so, what is how accessible is it?
Yeah, so at least with the app, because currently the app is fairly functional. It has like a working save and load system, and you can easily drag around curves. What we do need to add is a tool point UI. So like the plan for rolling it out is probably to like, as I said, housekeeping. It is extensively bug tested, but even if code's not buggy, that doesn't necessarily mean it is the best code you can have. So like for end users, the app is good, but like for current like new developers, we do need to focus on making it a bit more cohesive, which is why we want to make it open source, because if we can get other people working on it, we can get the app more kind of like standardized, the more common routine, like systems of coding and like more common paradigms of coding. And also if we get it programmed, like other teams can add more features, which means we can just make it a better app. And we also have more opportunities to test it on more robots. But as of right now, if you're just like looking to specify like a basic auto path with a Bezier curve and setting action points, Chicken Planner would work fairly well.
I think what's appealing to me about Chicken Planner right now is it was frustrating for us last year. We used Path Planner last year, and what was frustrating was one of the things Amelia had pointed out earlier is you can create your paths, or you can create your autos with parameters on the constructors in your commands. And Chicken Planner or Path Planner doesn't let you new up a command with something on the constructor. So, for example, if you had a command that said turn a number of degrees, with Path Planner, you would have to create a command for turning 30 degrees and create a command for turning 90 degrees and create a command for turning 180 degrees, where in this system and in what we had done previously before, when we actually coded our autos, we would create one command where you would pass in how many degrees do you want to turn on the constructor. And so I like the idea, and our students too, I like the idea of having more control and writing less code that you then have to go in and tweak all of the different commands that turn to an angle, perhaps. The other thing is that we think that we can get really fancy with our commands. So, for example, last year you drive out to the center line to pick up a game piece, but maybe somebody already took it. If you have a camera that can detect a game piece, if you're coding your autos, you have the potential to be able to pass in inputs on the constructors to be able to say, take this camera input or something else. And maybe you can modify the path that you're going to drive to not bother going to a point where you already know there's no game piece there. So we think we're going to get a little bit more control by coding our autos. And so since we have to code our autos, we need to find a way to be able to do trajectory stuff in code rather than using a tool like Path Planner where it's a drag and drop. One of the things that we were looking at doing, and we may still do it yet, we obviously are going to try Chicken Planner, but with Path Planner, you can use Path Planner to create the paths, but then you can manually load them, and you can use Path Planner basically just to draw your paths, but not to build your autos. And so the students, I'm pretty sure they've already tested that and they figured out how to do that. And now that Chicken Planner looks a lot more polish on it, I'm sure our students will take a closer look at that as well.
something we all looking into is currently one issue of Chicken Flannel is that it was written using Maven, and we have been unable to build a Java X app with Maven. So one of the reasons we're making it open source is there's probably someone who knows how to use Maven well, and just like those different skill sets we're looking for. And currently right now, it's like not a terrible experience to use. We just have to like type in like a terminal command, but ideally it would be like to an exe. So that's like one last thing we need to do. So if any of you guys have any Maven experience, that would be greatly appreciated.
Well, do you guys want to fill time with anything else? I mean, I think you've done an excellent job here presenting this, and I think we've asked all the questions are to ask. I know that you guys really are looking for some help. I will certainly be trying to encourage my students to get some help. I don't want to presume that you're done. Do you have more things that you want to chat about with Chicken Planet, or just anything autos that you want to cover tonight?
Yeah, I think like first thing I may want to do is we do have like a Discord link. The reason we're kind of like deciding to use Discord for planning the app instead of Slack is the thing about Slack is that it does delete messages after a while, and it would be nice if we can kind of just have like a history of what we planned. So that's like what kind of like motive for using Discord over Slack. But I can like send that in the chat right now. Real quick.
Yeah, can you also drop the link to your GitHub?
Yeah.
Is it public yet? Maybe the project's not public yet.
It is public. It's a little bit messy. I need to merge some branches that I haven't done yet, but it should be. I'll be putting like more instructions on how to use it. Probably like later this week. But if you guys like want to like be looking through the code, and if you ever want to like send me a message on Discord, I'll be happy to explain how that works. Yeah.
My next question is, are you planning to manage bugs and feature requests using GitHub, or are you planning to do that at a different place?
I think we're all going to be planning to use it during GitHub because GitHub's issue tracker is a really nice feature. Yeah. And the thing is, like, people who would be interested in like doing features requests probably are also programmers who have experience with GitHub. So it seems to have like the most ease of use to be just using GitHub for that.
Yeah, I agree. That makes a lot of sense.
We're gonna be aiming for like a dev call next week on Saturday from 7 to 8, kind of like more going over like in more depth how Chicken Flannel is structured and like how the code works, and also what we can like aim to do, and just get an idea of like still like delegating tasks.
Well, I think I may have joined your Discord. I'm not a very good Discord user, I will admit. I'm reluctantly on Discord for a couple of different things, and every time I go in here, I have to relearn what I'm doing. Anyway.
Yeah, that's why I don't use it very much for anything else, because I feel like every time I click on something, I'm probably in the wrong place, and I'm like, okay, I'm out.
I know how to get a hold of you guys. You guys may have to give me some technical support here if I can't get this in. It looks like I'm in, but it won't load messages, so I don't know what's going on.
You have joined Silver QHQ, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Excellent. Personally, this is the first time I have opened Discord in like several months as well. I just like thought it would be a better use case over Slack.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. There's definitely a use case for Discord and a use case for Slack. Yeah, I don't have a problem being in here. That's fine. it might take me a minute to relearn the Discord. All right. Well, anything else? What else you guys want to chat about tonight? Or do you want to wrap it up? Because I've been getting up very early for this FTC tournament the last 2 weekends, and I'm going to bed early tonight.
Yeah, I got a quick question before you go to bed, Scott.
Well, is it about Chicken Planner? Because I want to make sure we
Nope.
give Emilio and John a chance to wrap up if we're done. Are you guys want to wrap it up here and move on and just have kind of an open topics?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, Chicken Channel, really, I think I've explained the bulk of everything in there. Of course, there's like always more in-depth technical explanations, but again, the code seed, it's a bit complicated and isn't necessarily like relevant, which is like why we're going to be having that call on Saturday for people more interested in like understanding how it like works on the more technical level.
Okay.
Yeah, but thanks
great.
for having us today.
I'm going to encourage my students my students. We got a couple on here tonight but I don't think our programming or autonomous leader on. I'm going to try to encourage them to check it out, to be willing to participate. Hopefully we can pull some KnightKrawlers in to help you out with it, because I see a lot of potential here and it falls in line with some of our goals as well. So we'll see. It's up to them to decide. I'm not going to push them to do something they don't want to do, but I'm going to encourage them to at least check it out. All right. Well, let's do this. How about a big round of applause? Thank you very much, Emilio and John. We really, really appreciate it. You guys knocked it out of the park once again. And this is a really cool project. Not very many teams take on an initiative like this. So kudos to you. This is excellent and awesome. I look forward to paying very close attention to this project and seeing how it goes this year and beyond this year. All right. So with that, let's open it up. Jeremiah has a question. So let's just do a little open topics here for the next half an hour or so, and then we'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Jeremiah. You're on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I'm sure everyone probably have the same question, but something I've been doing that I shouldn't have done, that I know no one should do, is, all right, and this goes to anyone in the room, not just Scott, because I'm new to FRC, and I have this very nagging behavior of, trying to think about things I shouldn't think about, probably. So last year, I got into this whole thing about thinking about what this past season was going to be like and what is some level of preparation I should kind of give my team and some things to mentally prepare about, just strategy-wise, what to think about. And then I went back to watching previous, like past 10, 15 years, seasons. And, I don't know if we got any close to what I thought it would be, but what is anyone thinking right now? Besides the fact that we're gonna drive a robot in the sea, like some of the.
What do you mean? What are we thinking? What are we thinking about? What exactly?
About the upcoming storm.
Oh, what the game's gonna be?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what we know. So we know that you can there's two different types of game pieces, and we know that you can hold at most one of each kind of piece. So we know that.
Wait, there are two game pieces.
Yep. And one of them's a common game piece you can get just about anywhere. Does anyone want to share any theories about what they think the common game piece is that you can buy just about anywhere?
I feel like it's going to be some form of soda can or plastic bottle, because with Reefscape, usually the game goes shoot or pickup game, so we're kind of on that pickup game mule. And my theory is it's going to be something about picking up trash off the ocean floor.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been leaning towards, like more like a cleanup and, rehabilitating the ocean floor in some capacity. So 2 game pieces, and you said 1 common, 1 and what?
1 specialized, yep. Now, of the specialized pieces, we know that there's 9 per half of the field, because with Andy Mark, you could buy a box of 20, which is 2 more than you would need for a full field, and you're going to get, do you get 1 or do you get 2 in your KOP? I think you might get 2 of the specialized pieces in the KOP. Maybe it's only 1, but we know that there's 9 on each half of the field. So if you want to have all of them for a potential auto, which seems silly because the chances of 1 robot picking up all 9 pieces is crazy because you have 3 robots, you know, but you might pick up 4 or you might pick up 5. So you're going to want to have at least, if you're going to do crazy big autos, you're probably going to want to have 5 or 6 of those specialized game pieces. So we're planning on I think we already have put in our order to get the 20 and then plan to sell half of them or 2/3 of them to other teams who are interested. The common off the shelf. I like the soda bottle idea. I think that's a really neat idea. During the at-home edition in 2021, when there was the game design competition, KnightKrawler did it was called Maritime Mayhem. And our game submission was picking up plastic bottles. I think they were 2-liter bottles, plastic bottles and rubber ducks. And so if that's what it is, that'll be awesome because that was our game design ideas, picking up trash and then rescuing the rubber ducks. And you had to kind of sort them and put them in 2 different spots. So I saw someone post on Chief Delphi, they thought it might be a 5-gallon pail. That would be a very interesting challenge. And it would maybe make sense too, since you can hold 1 of each. Maybe you would put the odd shaped thing in the pail, 5-gallon bucket, and then you would move the bucket and you could move 1 or either of them individually. So I thought that was a really interesting idea. Sports balls are pretty uniform, like official size soccer ball, official size volleyball, official size basketball. Those are very uniform things that you could get just about anywhere. So it'll be interesting to see what that uniform thing is, but I've heard those suggestions. We know that the bumpers are going to be complete bumpers all the way around the robot. There's going to be no frame cuts, right? Isn't that true? I think they changed the bumper rule this year, where last year you could have only a 1/2 inch gap, and this year I think it's 1.5 inch gap. That tells me that there's no frame cutouts. So it'll be a complete all the way around the bumper, which means that we're going to be doing intaking probably over the bumper. I would be surprised if the game piece this year was so small like last year that it could go under the bumper. So I'm anticipating it'll be an over the bumper intake for whatever it is we're picking up. Anybody else have any theories on things? I know that we have a bumper talk planned. It's already on the schedule for January. Has anyone done any bumper research?
You need to talk to my wife who's on 2530. She's like bumper queen. She's looked at every possible solution and what materials and how you cut them and how you adhere them. And she's not on this call, but maybe I can link you up with her. Because honestly, I think the bumper rules have changed.
Yeah.
And you could do lots of different materials, but you know, the thickness of your bumper compared to what you do to adhere it to your robot, because you don't need 3/4 inch plywood anymore, whether you use steel or aluminum or plywood or whatever, I think is really interesting. I think probably though, at least on our team, we're going to plan on going with regular plywood and maybe a little bit thicker bumper because we don't want to change too much. It's going to be difficult to revise the whole thing in 1 year. And I don't think they're going to let us go super fast and bump into each other as fast as we did last year because that's a pretty raucous game. So I imagine it's going to be more pick and place and precision than racing really fast. But I will hook you up with my wife because honestly, she has gone to a couple of manufacturers to figure out what you can get for foam, whether you put them horizontal or whether you put them vertical or whether you put something that's a little bit more squishy on the inside as opposed to the outside. I think it's a really interesting, thing to think about. But I think for this game, probably not going to be the biggest deal. It's going to be precision and probably pick and place, and going super fast and bumping into each other is not going to be as big as last year. That's just my own personal opinion.
But
I
the-
think you're right about pick and place, but if you have to full cycle the field, then it will be very fast.
Yeah,
It'll
it could be
So,
fast. Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing too with that, when people have to run full cycle, also part of the issue my team ran into initially at our initial matches was not another team. It was you hitting the field elements.
Yeah. Run into the metal. Yep. That's
Yep.
how we broke our
And-
robot for sure.
Yep.
I think
And-
honestly the thicker bumper with a little bit of a harder foam on the outside and the squishier foam on the inside, and then regular plywood hooked to your robot like the way we've always done it is going to be the best. But
you want to
We'll
have
see.
something. You want to have something that has some absorbance and because when you start to think that metal will, because it's stronger and it now you want something to have a give. Also, I think in a bumper rules, I think what one of the changes is that the corner of the bumper. You know how we always wrap the material around. I don't even know why didn't I even think about it. That's like one of the the least protective area. And guess what? That's where's there your modules. So being able to actually take a full foam and put it in a corner, it will make a huge difference. So I think 3/4 inch plywood probably might just still, like you just said, you don't want to go completely crazy the first year and go bumper nuts, and then you forget about your mechanism.
yeah, I think honestly we're going to do 3/4 inch plywood. We're going to do at the corners probably interleaved, where you
Yeah.
have like one that goes around the left, one goes around the right, and each layer is probably different. And then like the exercise mats on the outside and it's more squishy on the inside. That's probably as good as it gets. Don't go crazy. I think that I've looked at the Chief Delphi bumper like squishing foam for them. It's crazy. And probably the best teams will have some, space foam architected thing, but it's not going to be necessary. I think if you're zooming fast, you bump into somebody. If you got a reasonable bumper out of decent material, it's going to be better than last year, but you don't need to go crazy.
So where everyone's buying their foam materials from? Dollar store, Amazon? Because I know when you have to buy that stuff to ship it, the shipping costs an arm and a leg when the actual material costs you a penny.
I'm getting floor tiles at Harbor Freight. Just floor tiles.
Yep.
I agree. I don't
agree.
think the fancy, heavy, crazy, expensive foam is the answer.
Yep.
I think
Agree.
floor tiles
Exercise
are-
mats and easy foam is the way to go. Go
Lily, you've had your hand up for a while. Just please jump in.
Okay, so if you there's actually like restrictions on the materials that you're allowed to use, and they all seem to be types of like poly. I cannot read that.
Polyurethane
Oh, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
closed cell.
So what my team did is we talked to some like material like engineers and like scientists at like Future Foam, and we talked to them and we noticed that like the materials that they're using for like the list of materials they have, they're all like similar materials, and they're all like materials that are used for like pool noodles and stuff. So in regards to like durability and fatigue, there isn't that much of a difference. But in what we're doing as a team, and they're like not that great for the environment. So what our team is doing is we're reaching out to the first, and we're like suggesting using I cannot read this either. These materials because they're better for the environment, and I think they'll probably do what the polyethylene materials are better than that, and we're just reaching out. So yeah, thank you.
That's exciting. I'm interested to see because the official material is polyethylene material, right? And you're talking about polyurethane material. And then the EVA foam, which is what the floor tiles are, that's the other option as well. That's what we're planning to use until we figure out that it just won't work. Well, that's what I'm planning to prototype. We'll see if the rest of the team agrees with that.
I think
we'll
floor
see.
tiles on the outside and maybe something like a little bit more squishy and thinner on the inside is the way most people are going to go. I will have to post a link or have my wife join, because honestly, she went to a foam manufacturer in Owatonna and talked to them about all the stuff that they do for packaging, which is the same. They're trying to protect their stuff inside of a box or make a package. And the EVA foam on the outside, which is really durable and not very compressible, but will survive a hit. And something a little bit more compressible on the inside is the way to go. But how you adhere to all those things together and how you put it on your bumper and make it sure it doesn't like fall off or fall apart is really complicated. It's harder than pool noodles, but super fun. It's a new challenge for the year. I think it's the year of the bumper.
So Brian, I'll jump in here. I'm also
Pranay,
from
go.
Team 2530, and I went to the foam factory. And when we were there, we talked to one of their material engineers, and he recommended an EVA on the outside about 2 inches, and then about 3/4 of a PE or an EPE of some sort. Density 2.2 to 2.5, I believe. And then I don't remember what the density of our EVA was, but one of the things
I think
is
it was
that
2.
they have specific machine. Actually, Brian, if you have the samples there, I wrote it on there.
Yeah, I'm in my garage. I'll go look. Hold
Okay.
on.
But we went to Foamcraft in Owatonna, and they have they talked about how if we just tell them what foams we want, they will adhere it themselves they have specific Teflon heat machines that they use to adhere the foams together, and then they can cut them in bumper size strips for us that they'll just send us.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really convenient for this type of stuff.
Do you have an idea on price?
That was a good question. We talked about it, and we were going to get a quote afterwards. I believe a sheet of EPE, which was 4x10, was going to cost us $60 total.
Not bad.
How
And
thick?
that's so they get their bats in 4 inches, and they can custom cut it to whatever thickness you want it to be.
So a 4-inch thick, 4 foot by 10 foot sheet was $60.
Somewhere around there. I don't remember.
That's an amazing deal.
Can you
Yeah, it's a
share
great deal.
that?
They would laser cut it and
Can
make
you
it the
share
shape you
that
wanted,
content?
which would be very cool.
You guys are going to become a supplier for all of First.
Yeah, we should have made one of those things where you make your bumpers and have everybody order it from you and make our profit.
Yeah.
But I think,
Yeah.
honestly, there's a lot of companies that do this for simple things, like making a box with a foam insert so that the thing you're shipping isn't destroyed. It's very cheap, and they've got lots of equipment to do it very easily.
I was going to say, if you find any like packaging manufacturing company, they'll have the exact same machinery and the exact same materials. I would recommend finding something a little bit more local.
So when
to
you're
your team
saying
and-
packaging material like agar, for example, that
maybe I'm not entirely familiar with the industry, so I can't say, but
I know I'm in the Alexandria area, and there's a bunch of those that primarily what they do is they make packaging for products, and,
possibly.
and the build machines that packages things, and so I figure they want to.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to reach out and see what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Could you
company I work for? Oh, sorry, Lily.
could you write the company name in like the chat?
Yeah.
So I can write it down. Thank you.
Yeah, they were basically very excited that some robotics team was interested in what they're doing.
Yeah, they were very excited to meet
and
us.
the materials are super cheap. It's the labor, so cutting it out to the right shape is interesting and difficult. But they could do that pretty efficiently for a lot of teams. But if you just want a material, they've got tons and tons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a lot of these companies will keep that stock on hand, so you don't have to pay the shipping prices. You just have to pay the material prices because they order it by the truckload already. So if you just buy one sheet off them, you're going to get it much cheaper than just ordering it online.
So Dr. B, you said your wife said something about taking a layer, putting it on the inside. What are you talking about? Really, like
Yeah,
you
so I
talking
think
about
honestly the easiest thing to do is put a more squishy foam on the inside nearest to your bumpers, which we're just gonna probably use plywood like we've always done. But you can use something that's not a pool noodle, so it's a little bit more compressible. And then on the outside, you layer foam like 4 inches thick or whatever, however tall your bumper is, in the shape of your bumper, and glue them together as a layer that's sheeted from bottom to top that matches the same thing. And that is like not breakable. It's super duper durable, and the force gets compressed over the whole area and is very, very durable. So I think, something like this, which is super squishy on the inside, and the foam tiles that you'd use for a gym floor on the outside, and whether you cut it with a bandsaw or whether you cut it with a laser or whether you cut it with a knife, doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. But I think it's going to be very easy to make something much more robust than we used to have. So it probably like 2.5 inches on the outside and a half an inch of super squishy, and then the whatever it is, whether you're going to use plywood or some other material to attach to your robot, it's going to be really, really durable. We started last year with sort of so-so bumpers and got them destroyed, and rebuilt them for both Worlds and State, and they were awesome. And I think with better material than a pool noodle, it'll be even better. Just need good wood, good angle brackets at the side, and a decent foam at the outside.
what team are you from?
Inconceivable 2530.
We're looking at the company I work for. One of the divisions makes replacement or aftermarket seats and floor mats and insides of tractors and other cab interiors. So my co-worker there at that division in Renville, he's the coach mentor for the Bold team in Bird Island, Olivia, Danube. So he's talking to some of the manufacturers that we already work with and see what they might have. And there's possibility, depending on what gets used, there could be things that we might be able to just pull out of the scrap pile that are already being cut off from other projects, and then kind of a little bit of a reuse and recycle, tying in with the theme of the year saving things and avoiding waste or finding other places to put it, is something that we're looking at.
And that's
where
one
we
of my
go.
that's one of my biggest struggle with FRC, is a lot of these very not so eco-friendly materials that we use, and we use in a huge quantity. And it's just like, aren't we trying to create awareness to these things so we can alleviate this? And the problem we're trying to mitigate, we kind of, in a way, costing them. And it's mind-boggling, but I don't have the answer. So
Whatever the game pieces are, we hope that they're much more durable than last year, because those notes left Cheeto dust everywhere. Just annihilated those notes.
So I just checked the schedule. We have a bumper talk already scheduled for January 26th. So I think that is going to be, we're going to have hundreds of people on the call. just for the bumper
Amanda
talk.
from 2530 will be there.
Yeah. John Stratus
Voluntold.
John Stratus signed up to give this talk over a month ago. So as soon as bumpers was announced, John came in and put that on the calendar for week 3. I'm guessing that's what that is. Build week at the end of build season week 3. So yeah, that'll be a great topic. Any other kind of last minute thing? I have a question. How does everybody run their kickoff? Because we had a great system, and then the video doesn't even play until like 11:30 our time, and so we end up losing our entire morning of productivity, because we used to start the video at 9, now it starts at 11. By the time you actually see the game review, you watch it and then you go eat lunch. So I'm really curious to know how people run their schedule for kickoff. Does anybody want to share how they do that? How about the tasks that you accomplish? Okay, sure. Go right ahead.
We start around 9, and we use it a bit of an introduction for parents as well. So they'll set up the stations to show the parents what they do. We'll have a parent meeting while the kids are doing whatever. And then that's where we kind of kick off the expectations when we talk about travel, about helping provide team meals, just about what is this a bit about, what are these terms your kids are talking about, the communication platform that we use. We watch the video, feed everybody, and then send the parents home, and then the team will stay until middle of the afternoon to start reading the rule book and coming up with plans.
So you read the rule book, and then when you say coming up with plans, are you talking about like initial concepts for robot design?
Yeah, they've started some kind of like, if it is this, then maybe we would go this direction. If it's that, maybe we'd go this direction. You're kind of weighing that shooter versus pick and place
Sure.
sort of thing. And they're really trying to look at more on the style and theming this year is one of the goals that the team set for themselves.
So for 8 or 7, 8, well, with our first year, it was important that we actually go to an area, whether it was distribution center, whatever you want to call it, and we sat there, and because we didn't know what to expect, and so we did that for like the first year, and then I think in the second year too. But we've learned that it's not an efficiency in time management, and so instead of driving 6 hours one day, that's like So in the past 2 seasons, what we've done is we've had one of the team captains and his parent, his dad, drive down and pick up whatever needs to be picked up, while the rest of the team meet at in my classroom, and because I'll watch the thing on the smart board. And I've been actually toying with this idea, Stacy, and I'm glad that you said it, because I kind of want to get the parents involved on kickoff too. So because like when it comes to like field elements and stuff like that, that's something that parents and their kids can work on outside of the outside. So when you see the game introduced, you see all the technicalities being talked about, and then this dad wants to work with his son in that shop, build this contraption that can count towards his hours of participation too. And that's all those good things. And so having the parents involved in the morning and then after, then they can leave, and then the rest of the kids. And what we've used that time for in the afternoon, because I call it, this is the bring all the dumb, stupid idea. I like them all because, what may seem like a dumb, stupid idea, you might actually have to bring you might have to take this idea and refine it, and with this other one eventually at the end of the day, and then you're like, oh yeah, it kind of morphed together from one person's dumb idea to the other person's. Go bring your toothpaste. Sorry, go bring your toothpaste. Just go get the toothpaste. Go brush your teeth. That will help you in the morning. Sorry.
Nope, that's the other job you have, right?
Yep. I will help you in the morning. But anyway, the idea is why the game introduction is fresh in their minds, why they sitting there. I bring a whole stack of white computer papers and just read there. I'm like, if you're thinking it, put it on paper. Don't tell me. I don't want anyone talking to anybody for like the next, I think last year I was like 30 minutes. I don't want to hear anything from anyone. Just put anything on paper. And then after that, we can just have a whole stack of like with pen, just start going through them and see, where we'll go from there. That's kind of what we're doing day one.
We also talked strategy day one when we looked at things. I know last year we kind of made a decision not to go for the trap. There wasn't enough extra points for it, and we felt better concentrate on the 2 other major scoring opportunities.
I will say what our team has done, or at least starting last year, is like really focusing on strategy first before even looking at potential designs. We would even go so far as like, and we're planning to do it this year, like once we get the basic like kit from first, we would like with the game pieces, we would try to like model the game as like human robots, right? Without just very basic, just to get like key strategies or just very basic strategies like highlighted that you wouldn't really, wouldn't come to light right away from just looking at the game manual. But what we did looking specifically at the game manual was like dividing and conquering to do that. So we would have like multiple groups, like multiple small groups, look at different parts of the game manual, and then we would all come back and have groups present their portion of the game manual, like things to really focus on. And then after we've kind of decided or started brainstorming on some strategies, like last year, like you said, with the trap, whatever, we would then start thinking of design, but really lock down on those strategies first.
They did kind of grid out the field too, and kind of like space, and that's kind of to your point, John, where they decided that guided the design. Then, based on the busyness of the field and the structures, they decided that going low enough to fit under things, so that gave you your upper tolerance for the bot, and being able to navigate and bring the drive team in to kind of get their input on that too, because they're the ones who need to navigate around all that stuff. And last year there was just a lot on the field to run into or maneuver around.
John, are you doing your human simulation on Saturday, on the first day, or are you doing that later in the week?
I'm pretty sure we're doing it on Saturday. We would do that like either I can't remember what we did last year, but I think it might have been we watched the video, we went to lunch, and then I think we read the game manual and then did the human thing, but I remember it was on the same day. And I believe that's the plan this year.
We used to do. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Emilio.
Adding to what John said, at least like the human like kind of game playing really just makes it appealing what kind of like this game is going to be like. For example, like with this one, if it's a pickup game, you'll be able to kind of like see that like point you pointed out. Maybe it's not going to be as aggressive. Of just like that kind of just really gives you a good idea of like what this game is being like. And I personally found, at least on my introductory, you and the team really useful for understanding how FRC is going to work this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think cycling really becomes apparent when you do the human simulation. Giving an idea of where the traffic patterns are going to be is pretty good when you do that type of thing. We always used to do human simulation on the same day, but that was also, we were done going through the manual by lunchtime. Now we go to lunch, we come back, we read through the manual. By the time you would get the floor taped out, it's kind of the end of the day already. So I don't know. We still haven't decided. We know what we're going to do up until like 2:00, and we're not sure what to do past that, because we're trying to decide, well, do we need to give people more time to like noodle on what are the rules and what are the ways to score points before we do that human simulation? Do we really want to even think about design concepts before we've done that human simulation? So right now, the whole schedule change really has kind of screwed up our process. And so we've got a couple of different ideas, and we still haven't, I don't think we've settled on what it is we're going to do for the last 2 to 3 hours of the day.
I think it might be good to do that simulation first or like early on, because you don't want to really like lock in on an idea that like you think might be good just by looking at the game manual, but like really basing that first off of like real life real life factors would probably be good, but I don't know.
We even talked about, we could tape out the floor, and then we could, based on whatever the game is, we could tape out the floor and then decide whether we want to do the simulation or save it till Monday. But we have shared space, and so we don't know if our tape would even survive with the dance team and PE in our shared space. We may have to tape it all out again anyway. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I was just curious to know what other teams are doing. Does anybody else want to share? Lily, I don't know. I don't remember. Did you share what you guys do?
Oh, I didn't share yet, but what we do is we basically have people bring food in on Saturday, and it's great because we have like a little meeting and we discuss about like what we think the game is. But before we kind of like discuss and stuff, we might like have like a team breakfast or lunch or something. I don't remember. But we would do that, and then when we have the video ready, everyone just sits down and like watches the video. And after watching the video, we kind of get split up into groups and we write and we have like worksheets that we give out. And the worksheets basically just force everyone to like go through the game manual and actually read it. And it's also helpful to just like write down information from the game manual to remember it better. And after that, we kind of get into groups and we have these huge like pieces of paper and everyone just like jots down some like ideas they have and like strategies they have. But yeah, and after that, we also do like a human demonstration with spinning chairs with like the wheels, and then we set the field up, and it's nice to see how cycling would work. And then kind of like save some of like the kickoff discussion for like Monday. And during Monday, we kind of talk more about strategy and maybe start designing. So thank you.
I like the idea of using wheelie chairs. We don't
Oh,
No, I love that. That's cool. I love
yeah,
that.
like office chairs. That's what. Because when my kids, when we first started, when we got onto this whole swerve thing, I liked it. He's like, it's like a swivel chair, right, Miller? I'm like, yeah, it is a swivel chair, but 4 swivel chairs moving simultaneously together in the same direction or so. The other thing I remember last year, we started with strategy, and when the game was revealed, I kind of looked at him. I was like, well, over the bumper or under the bumper, my team captain was strong opinion, like no under the bumper, no under the bumper. And I'm like, what is it that you, Miller, you make us do that? I'm not gonna build a robot. I'm like, whatever, it's your show. And I remember after Grand Forks, we came back like a novice, like just went to war and got scarred so many with bruises and cuts and everything. He's like, Miller, are we able to still revise this robot and put this whole thing within the bumper? I laughed so hard. I'm like, I like your I like your motivation, but I don't think we have enough time to do that because St. Cloud was right around the corner. And now we've been talking about some strategy so far in our last 2 meetings. And one of the things that really, really heavily pushing is how can we build a more compact robot that's also within the parameter of the bumper? And I'm like, oh, I remember last January you guys wanted to eat me for lunch when I recommended doing something similar. So I wouldn't be surprised that January 4th, one of the first things they want to talk about is how can we put this stuff within the parameter of the robot. And so, yeah.
One of the things that we've even discussed is doing lunch early and eating lunch while we watch the videos so we don't lose that hour. So that's something else we're thinking about doing to try to work out the time. Dr. B, did you guys share what you guys do? Are you willing to give us some insight into how you run your kickoff day?
We don't have a lot of better insight, honestly. we sit down, we watch the video. We've tried like splitting off people to a lot of different teams and telling them to brainstorm about different stuff. I think this year we're going to focus on everybody has to read the manual and honestly has to understand the game and what the rules are. And even if they don't understand it completely, they have to know what the game is, because we had a mock sort of a kickoff a couple of weeks ago, and some of the groups came up to the front with a whiteboard with really good ideas about how they're going to solve the 2018 game challenge, and what they proposed wasn't legal. So I think honestly, sit down, watch the video, read the manual. Keeping kids engaged in that is really hard. So how we do that, and then go to lunch and have them re-engage is difficult. I'll let Pranay speak too. 'Cause he's our exciter in the game. He's got the energy. He's been an FRC guy a couple of years ago, and honestly has invigorated our team. But it's difficult because the kids don't want to read a game manual. They want to see the video and they want to design a robot, and like no in between, which is difficult. But I think we're going to force them to read the manual. And I love the idea of putting people in chairs and making them run around the field, because that gives them something to think about, and an actual physical interaction with a space makes them think harder, because abstracting a manual and making kids like ingest 135 pages in an hour is just not super fun. You go, Pranay.
Yeah, we actually have found in the past, or at least so, just for some history, I was previously alum on 2530, and then I've come back as a mentor now. So one of the things that I found as a student and as a mentor is that lunch is really important to get the heebie-jeebies out of all the kids and kind of settle down from the excitement. So for a lot of the time, the lunch is just time for them to talk and speculate. And what I'll do is, as strategy mentor and scouting mentors, I'll take my sub team and we'll kind of read through the manual over lunch and get a lot of the key points out of the way that a lot of the kids will find important, or some details that they might miss, or intricacies in that sense. And we'll give a short little presentation, a Sparks notes, if you will, to the team about the rules. And then we'll sit down and we'll break our students into groups of 6 to 7, and kind of popcorn read, in the sense of sub teams are expected to read through the manuals as subgroups and as the big team, and kind of give input here, input when they see things a little bit differently than how other people might see it, for better or for worse. And one of the big things that we emphasize is not talking about robot design until we fully read through the rules, because as Dr. B said, a lot of students will come up with improper or illegal strategies or designs. And one of the big things I'm going to be pushing this year is, or I have pushed, I should say, is making sure we fully understand strategy before we kind of dive into robot design. And that goes from everywhere, from understanding our capabilities and some time-based analysis on scoring and all of that, and also alliance analysis and seeing what's effective and what's not effective in terms of a full court assault, I guess is the best way to put that. And a lot of what you guys have already said is kind of applicable to what we're doing as well. But we normally wouldn't start strategy and design until Monday, so we don't meet Sundays at all. So we would spend almost all of Saturday on rules.
Well, I think we've come to the end. Anybody want to have any last minute stuff to close out 2024? All right.
I'll make sure my wife is here for bumpers.
Yeah, bumpers. Week 3 at the end of week 3 for build season. All right. Once again, I want to do a huge thanks to Emilio and John. You guys, once again, awesome presentation. Great project. I'm very excited for it. Congratulations and good job. And for everybody else, we will see you on the what is that? The 5th? I think Sunday's the 5th. Whatever that for Sunday.
Saturday is the 4th. Come on. May the 4th be with you.
Okay. So I'll see you guys.
It's not me, but it works.
I will see you guys on the 5th, and there will be no shortage of things to talk about. So everyone enjoy your break, enjoy your holiday if you celebrate, and have a good one.